What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is Adam. I am your host. We have another guest here on the show today. One of my good friends in this hobby, Aaron Nowak of SlabStox. He is somebody who kind of got back into this hobby, I guess a similar time as me. I mean, we'll kind of get into like our history in the hobby and all that kind of stuff once we get into it. Aaron, how are we doing tonight?
Very good, man. I appreciate the invite. I don't think this is the first time we've done this together, but it's probably a few years ago we did it the last time.
Yeah, that's right. I want to thank you first of all for at the 2019 National. The first time that we ever met, I asked you if I could leave some stuff at your table, and you guys were like, "Yeah, sure, go for it." And I was like, "Oh, that's great," because the 2019 National, I walked in, I was just starstruck because it was crazy, and I walked over to like the Breakers Pavilion, and they had like a Eric Norton who works at Beckett, I believe. They were doing like a giveaway, and they just like gave me a graded card case, and I was just like, I got here literally 30 seconds ago, and now I have to carry around this case. And you guys were nice enough to let me leave it at your table, which was, like I said, very nice of you. So I want to start off and say thank you for that.
Yes,
also,
sir,
getting me in that group chat with like Lou and Tyler and Gary and all that kind of thing. I talked to Lou about that on the show on Saturday, so I want to thank you for that as well. So like I said, let's dive into it, I guess. So
definitely.
You are somebody who has been in the hobby for what, since probably like 2017, 2018, at least for the coming back in. I'm assuming you probably have the story like most people where you're in as a kid, get back in it. So, I definitely want to hear a little bit about that to start off.
To be honest, I'm not that old. Not to say you're old. You're not. I'm 24. So
right. Yeah.
I've honestly been collecting since I was 8. So I've been collecting for like 15 plus years straight. Maybe one semester when I went to freshman year of college when I had no means of shipping, receiving any of that stuff. Still looking at the market, not exactly as active, but still like interested, of course. Was probably like the only real downtime. But yeah, I've pretty much been in it for 15 plus years. Straight and more so in the business side of it, where it comes to the content that since like 2017, 2018, but I had a lot of the foundation there from collecting for so long and understanding a lot of the intricacies of cards, to the point where, I saw an opportunity where, could really try to educate those that were not aware, first of all, of what sports cards were. And number two, those that knew what sports cards were, but maybe didn't think about them in the way that like, hey, you can actually buy and sell these to build your collection further. And that's what I did. My whole life was like buy and sell cards to build a collection is really what it came down to. And now it turned into, a business that my family is involved in, that we have, multiple other people helping with now. And it's really a great place to be. I love cards, and I'm just, happy to be here, of course.
Yeah, that's like you said. I mean, so that means you probably graduated college like 2-3 years ago, probably 20.
Yeah, just 3 years ago, 2020.
Okay, yeah. Nice. So, the hobby is so many things to so many different people. And I feel like kind of we all have a narrative and story around ourselves. So like, how would you, like, if someone were to come up to you and say, hey, Aaron, like, how would you describe yourself in the hobby? Like, what would you say to that person?
I'd honestly say that I'm a card collector just like you that had an idea to go and start posting things on Instagram way early on to drive discussion and to talk with other collectors. I'm very similar to everyone else in the hobby. And I think that's why a lot of people do relate so well to what SlabStox is and what we do, is because, we're not buying and selling $25,000 cards, $100,000 cards. It's like, we basically got here by just working hard, creating content, and buying and selling, small cards that end up making partnerships with different businesses and bringing, kind of these discussions to the masses. And obviously the card hobby boom helped a lot in 2020 with so many different people coming and trying to learn. And we just, ran with it during that and really try to galvanize a community into discussing more about cards. But yeah, really, I would just call myself a card collector for 15 years that likes business and likes numbers and likes sports, and kind of combined all together to bring people together to talk about it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess you and me have kind of seen sort of this industry change, and even for yourself, like the business and all that kind of stuff that you've been running has probably changed a lot over the past 5, 6, 7 years that you've been in it. So how do you navigate kind of some of the difficulties and things changing so often in like this industry?
I mean, that is such a big thing you bring up. Like, I am convinced that if we didn't pivot like 5 or 6 or 7 times in the last 5 years, that we wouldn't be here. And that's the number one name of the game, I think, for anyone that's in just collecting cards or buying and selling cards or running a business in cards, you have to be ready to adjust as the market adjusts and as the community wants different things, or as businesses you work with need different demands, whatever it might be. Like, you have to stay on your toes and be flexible, because things change all the time, really all the time. It's a very like short term. Obviously, there's a lot of people that buy and hold for the long term. I'm not saying that, I'm going to collect my entire life. I'm here for the long haul. But like, it's a very short term, like, move on to the next thing, and the next thing, the next thing, do something different here, do something different there, where you really have to be able to, adapt. And it's a hard thing to do. It's a really hard thing to do. Like, first of all, like, I know I'm in a different position than a lot of people are in, where luckily, like, this is my full-time thing. I can run this business and support other people through it, and have us really work hard to make this something big. But let's say that, like, you do work a full-time job and maybe have kids too, and all this different stuff going on. Like, it's very hard to keep up with all the changes. So in essence, like, that's why I think we're here, honestly, is to kind of be that group, and that company and that media source that can bring you all the news you need to know through newsletter, through YouTube, through Instagram, through whatever it might be, as the stuff changes. Like, it's always about trying to stay on top of the next story, trying to stay on top of the next thing, because for us, it's like, we really do think that speed's very important. Obviously, accuracy and facts is the most important, but like, after that, like, it's trying to get the information in people's hands as fast as possible while being as accurate as possible. Is, I think, why we were able to grow so well, is because we're afforded to have the time to spend on it. But the reason why we've grown to this point is because not a lot of people can't afford to have the time to spend on it, and it just kind of all worked out at the same time. So that's the goal.
Right. And, I mean, obviously, we've known each other for a long time. So like, I sort of know your story pretty well, in terms of like, you kind of started the business and then tried to sort of build something similar to Card Ladder.
Yeah.
So I'm just interested to know, like, how did that process go? And then, just as maybe maybe do you have any tips for somebody who maybe is trying to build something, and maybe it's not exactly working out the way that they want, and because you guys pivoted, I think you pivoted pretty well. So I'm interested to hear kind of that side of the story, and then also, like, if you have any tips for somebody who maybe is kind of trying to go through a pretty big transition the way that you guys did.
Yeah. So I mean, when I started the business, like, it was starting with an Instagram account. It was starting to just talk about cards with the goal of someday, like, I had no money, had no tech background, couldn't just build an application, couldn't just build a data platform. I really had to get somewhere first before doing that. The goal was to someday, bring a product to the community that people would value and use, and especially myself too, because like, it was not easy to produce data, especially in like graph form or posts, Instagram posts, before there was like a great Card Ladder Pro or Card Ladder to use. And this was even before Card Ladder. I even knew what Card Ladder's name was going to be or anything like that, or even, Jeff and everything like that, had the idea to build a data platform and almost like a model of StockX for cards, to kind of give myself the data too. Cause I want to talk about it. I want to post about it. I want to make it easier. And it was not easy the way I was doing it. So it's like, if you automate it, like, that'd be way easier. Eventually, like, kind of invested a ton of money into it. Had our team spend a ton of time, working on it to try building something. We did get it to launch eventually. We had to pivot like 5 times in between there because of how we were going to get the data. It wasn't working out how we first thought, or we're told we were going to be able to get it. So then we really kind of had to just do a last grasp, and it was very difficult and time consuming and pricey. And eventually, like, we were probably like 3-4 months post launch. Nate and I had a conversation, honestly, one night, and it was like, hey man, like, we don't know if this is going to go anywhere. Really, Nate brought it to me first. I kind of knew it for a while, but that was my goal always, was to like get that data platform off the ground. So it's gonna be hard for me to say no than for Nate. And once he kind of brought that up to me, it's like, you know what, like, really, I just wanted in the first place to be able to create content off of it. And guess what?
Right.
Card Ladder, you can create a ton of content off of it, and that's what we do today. Yeah. So we pretty much just shut it down and just really went for it, which I'm proud of. Lost money, but proud of going for it. And made a partnership with Card Ladder to create content, all the great data they provide, and to bring it to the community in real-time speed, which is number one. Like, it just worked out perfectly, honestly. So like, while it was a massive pivot from like, what are we working on and like, what's the goal, it was rather easy because we already set up everything else first. It wasn't like we created this product and tried to bring it to the masses that failed. And that's like, well, shoot, now what else do we do? Like, we already doing everything, all the content. We were doing breaking at that point, traveling to shows, like doing all these different things, to where it just made so much easy sense to transition over. Not to mention, we already had partnerships signed at the time with PWCC, and I believe we just started with Whatnot. at the time. And then it was very easy to kind of make those partnerships bigger as we had more time available. And then also start working, you know, with like SGC and grading to do some group submissions, then go, you know, bigger with Whatnot, and then do different things with Card Ladder. Then obviously when our platform, we shut it down. So like, it just was, it was almost like it couldn't have went better, I'd say, given the circumstances. The difficult part is that I think, you know, a lot of people maybe who are finding themselves in like a transition period, like don't have maybe the infrastructure set up to be able to do it easily, which I think almost speaks so much to like, if you are looking to start a business in cards, if you're looking to do something different, like you have to go and start talking to people. I think there's so many people who come out and try to roll out a product like first. And like, that's the first thing I ever hear about them. It's like, oh, so-and-so is launching this new product. You either grab their attention right away and it works, or you don't and you have nothing left, right? Like for us, it's like we had tons of people who were signed up to try to try SlabStox Pro, and it didn't work, but it didn't really matter a whole lot because we had so many people already there talking about everything else with us. So we kind of had the infrastructure set up. So if anything, I'd say like, if you're going to take some risks and start a business and do this, like I would really make sure that you kind of put in time building some infrastructure first and some audience and different things like that before really going for it. Cause it's a huge risk if it doesn't work out, like massive risk, because you might be left with nothing.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about, you know, the business and content and sports cards. And it feels like the relationship building is kind of almost just as important as some of the content that's being put out. So, I mean, for you guys, do you feel similarly, like when it comes to, you know, your business and just maybe just being in this space in general?
Yeah, it's difficult because like our team's not that big. Well, yes, we have like a team, as I will say, you know, myself, my parents, Nate, who's been working with me since the start, Julian is an intern for us, and Andrew does our soccer content. Like, you know, that's more than just me, but that's still relatively small based on how much we produce, I'd say, and how much other stuff we're doing in terms of actual operations. It's difficult because like you go to a show, like we go to a card show, and we do have to still get our daily Slab newsletter next morning. Like that's a lot of work to edit the entire thing. If you're at a show, that's time you can't do that. So then you're like, okay, well, do I go to this trade night, or do I go and do I finish my newsletter? And then oftentimes it means we do both, and we stay up really late and then just are sleep the entire show. But I agree with you. It's like the content's very important for us, of course. That's what keeps us relevant. The relationship building is extremely important because that's how, you know, I've been able to build different partnerships, been able to really make an impact in the community, I'd say. And even as much, I mean, I know that you might bring it up later, but like getting the Topps big league card.
That's right.
I've, you know, just being out there for 5 straight years and just talking to as many people as I can, I think kind of leads to something like that. Like there's a lot of instances where I'm at different shows, I'm at different events, I talk to one person, well, that one person works with this other person, that person invites us to this, and then that person tells us about, like, literally there's this massive tree almost which is formed with SlabStox and all these different people I know now, because of just being out there constantly. Now I did miss the main collective this last weekend. I would say that's the first major event I've missed since starting SlabStox, which was definitely different. It was very different, like opening up Instagram, being like, look at all these people doing this, talking to each other, because all those people I know, like literally, the people there I know.
Yeah.
But I had a valid excuse for sure, and it was, you know, the Camp Kesem massive Make the Magic event on campus in Madison, Wisconsin. It's the biggest fundraiser of the year for the organization. You know, we've done the fundraisers for the last 2 years through sports cards at the National, and they raised $123,000 on Saturday night, and the entire team was there, which was really cool. Like all of us were invited. Because of the different things that we've done with the help of obviously so many sponsors and donors and buyers throughout the last 2 years. But like, I just found that so important to go there and further that relationship and keep that going, because I think it's so unique where like anyone that goes to the Mint Collective can speak about things that they're doing in cards, but how many people can go there, you know, and I know people can plan and do stuff, but like how many people are really going there to try better, you know, people outside of cards, which is not blaming anyone. I mean, that's not a fault of anyone else. It's just like, it's such a unique opportunity. There'll be more Mint Collectives, and I went to the one last year, and I already do know like so many people is the other thing too. Like it's tough not to be present, but at the same time, it's like I feel good because I have built all these things over the last 5 years versus like, oh man, I gotta go there and try to find a way to talk to said person to get something to work. Although I would have liked to be there too. I wish I could split myself in half. Myself in Vegas and here.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, so I'm going to ask you about Camp Kesem as well, because at the 2021 National, the last one that was in Chicago, you guys threw that event and had like the amount of sponsors that you guys had was like so impressive. And when we got there and there was ton giveaways and, there was like the trivia you guys did. And it was a really awesome event. And like, and one story actually I do want to share from that event that I thought was really cool was like, so I had won like some box and then there was some other Bowman box. I think that I had, answered a question right, or I won it somehow. And there was like a dad and his son that were sitting next to me. I was like, you guys, I already won something. You guys can go up there and open it. And then the dad messaged me afterwards and was like, yeah, we opened the box on the plane back and we pulled, I don't remember exactly who it was, but they pulled some auto out of the box. I was like, I don't know. It was such an awesome, event, and you guys raised so much money for Camp Kesem. So, I'm interested to hear, I guess, what's your partnership? What's your relationship with Camp Kesem? And did you guys, I didn't go to the national at the last one, unfortunately, but like, was that something that you did there? And then is it something that you're kind of planning on for the future as well?
Yeah. So the whole Camp Kesem thing started. I was involved in it in college as a senior. Well, COVID hit. I never got to go to the camp to, basically for anyone that doesn't know, Camp Kesem hosts camps throughout the summer at different cities around the country. But myself, I was involved in Madison, Wisconsin, where I went to school. And it sends kids to camp for free whose parents have or had cancer, a guardian that's battling cancer, something like that. And I basically, once I graduated, I didn't really have an opportunity to be involved more than just the semester and going to meetings and stuff like that. And by luck, pretty much someone donated $20 on a YouTube stream to us. They said, give it a charity. I said, I'm going to give it to Camp Kesem because of this. Basically, more people donated money in that stream. Like $300 is pretty crazy, honestly, at the time. I thought it was insane. And after it, my dad was like, hey, let's do something at the national. No one's doing like, really charity event. That's something that no one's doing that we can do. And hopefully it'll get the community going. And I was like, that's a good idea. So we launched it, had like 6 sponsors to start, 3 big ones and three smaller ones, mostly collectors with 3 smaller ones. And we got $10,000 raised in the first like 2 weeks just from those 6 people. Made the video announcement. This is the first year in 2021, and like $100,000 in sports cards ended up in the SlabStox HQ within like a month. And then we had everything ended up being sold various ways. We did a huge event, like you said, at the national. And that ended up being around like 156,000, I think, the first year, or after the entire first year, it was 156K, but I think it was around 130K that night at the national. And then the second year comes, right? Last year, we want to do it again. It's in Atlantic City this year, so there's a little bit of challenges because Chicago is close to Milwaukee. We could have some access from driving product back and forth. So we did not bring everything to the national last year. The year before, we brought everything. We had a huge setup, like all these tables with all this product. Last year, we brought some stuff that we designated to sell the night of Ryan's Trade Night. So basically, Ryan's Trade Night with Jimmy, Card Collector 2 and Kentucky Roadshow. They let us have a space in the room where we would be live streaming our charity, our kind of grand finale, as we call that, on Whatnot. We're doing big breaks. We're selling different boxes, different things like that. And that was a good success. And we basically spent the entire month beforehand too doing different live streams on Whatnot. We ran a huge auction in PWCC. It was like probably like over 100 items or something like that. That sold the Sunday after the national ended. So there was many more ways that the product was sold because we wanted to stretch it out over a span of time versus at the national, that was so much to ship after. Like consolidate it all into like one period of time was insane. It was very difficult to do. But this upcoming year, yes, we hope to do something. We will be doing something guaranteed again. I don't know exactly when it'll happen, where it'll happen. I'll have to talk with the guys with the trade night and see if we can make that happen again, because I thought that was a good success. A lot of people got exposed to it very easily through that. And more stuff in the works, and hopefully we can raise a lot of money this year again. We're pushing to get over 300,000 for sure total over the last 3 years to average 100K a year. That'd be like around 50,000, I think, this year, which would be half of last year. But I want to get over 100K again. Like, that's always a goal. Now it is, of course. At first, it's $10,000, but that's a goal. But as long as we can surpass 300K, I'd be thrilled. Any amount of money is good. What am I saying?
Right. Yeah, totally.
Any amount's good.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things with cards and with charities and fundraisers and stuff like that is like people are, they're buying the cards and they're getting cards for it. Like, I think that's really cool that like people, you're kind of giving collectors a way to give back, but they also are kind of getting something maybe themselves, like not just like a raffle ticket or something along those lines. So I think, like I said, I'm really excited for that event. And I mean, like I said, 2021, it was really great. And then, running that stuff at the trade night, obviously phenomenal as well. So like if you're watching this after the fact, you're watching live, make sure you be on the lookout for all that kind of stuff that Aaron and the whole SlabStox team have got going on. So when you were in cards, how did you start? Like, for me, I was kind of making content because I was trying to make stuff that I didn't see out there. Like I was trying to learn and then kind of show people what I was learning. So for you, like, what was your process to like get into content, I guess is maybe the question.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, part of the process was, one, my dad's been a content guy his whole life, writing for magazines, writing for different publications, working in General Mills, doing different things, running his own media company then for some time. And all that kind of just had me interested in the first place in like content. I will say I was always a pretty shy kid, I'd say overall through high school. Not inside my friend group, but just in front of the masses. But when it's something like cards, where I've been so comfortable with my entire life, and honestly, it's not very comfortable back in high school around other people, it just gave me a way to like use my normal personality where I was like, very high energy, and just like let it all flow out. Honestly, it really got me like way more comfortable public speaking and all that different stuff, which is great. But my, the just having that interest in content helped first, and then secondly, part of it, right, was like, hey, someday I want to release an application and want people to talk about this stuff because I think it'll be useful to them. But second, it's like, I really did think that there was, as you kind of brought up, there was a massive void. Like there was nothing. I tell you what, maybe someday someone took a screenshot of something and like Yahoo Finance and posted it, and I'm just not aware of it or whatever they did. But like from what my knowledge, I believe that like when I posted the first Excel graph on Instagram, that was one of the first sports card data charts that has ever been seen outside of maybe an S&P 500 and PWCC.
Right,
like they did that for the last maybe like decade, but it was not card specific. That's for sure. So I never saw anything like that. And I just thought like, what better way than to do something that no one else is doing? And, I definitely was not confident at first. Probably told the story too many times now, but the first ever graph I posted on Alex Kirilloff, I actually deleted. And 20 minutes later, my brother asked me how it went. And I said, well, I deleted it. And then he goes, what are you talking about? He's like, put that thing back up there. So I credit my brother a lot for SlabStox being a thing, because I reposted the first post ever I made. I posted my, baseball cards before that, but first actual content post. And then a couple of people commented and were interested. And from there, it was like, wow, I can really, educate people along the way on everything I've learned about. Because honestly, like, and you might have found this out too when you're just starting, and that's probably how you found us. It's like there was not a lot at all. And when I say not a lot, I mean pretty much like nothing. Like you pretty much have to go through. You have to go through the motions yourself to learn, or you have to basically read all these different types of magazines or all these different types of manuals, or happen to look at some different forums where people bring up a topic. And that's so archaic, first of all. But like there's nothing that was very, very good to quickly learn information in real time. And I was like, this is perfect. I'll do it. So kind of use the knowledge to do that. And also at the same time, it was like, I didn't want people, and this was before I even knew who Gary Vee was. I was like, I don't want people someday to like feel like how I did when I was younger, not when I talk about cards or they're not cool, or, they aren't, kind of like sports a way to buy and sell your favorite players and stuff like that. And I figured if, if that narrative can kind of switch with like people getting more into it, like maybe someday they may actually be cool. And funny enough, then Gary Vee comes along, and that helped a lot with just getting in front of the masses very quickly when he started posting about it. And then it all kind of went from there, honestly.
Yeah, and it's really so crazy to think back to like that 2017, 2018, 2019 period. Like Card Ladder didn't exist. The market movers didn't exist. PWCC was still like on eBay, so they didn't really have their marketplace. Golden, they had their marketplace, but it really wasn't what it is today. Like, Altwood didn't exist. I mean, the technology that I think we've really seen is like, it's like if you could go before the iPhone, it's like when it's almost like, I think you could almost compare it to like when people were using like a house phone to call people, and then like when the iPhone came out. It's really like that's sort of, I feel like that's the transformation that has gone on in sports cards that I feel like sometimes people, I guess maybe don't even understand. Like it's really kind of insane, to be honest.
Yeah, that's 100% the magnitude. And if anything, it's been like a tech revolution, honestly, in sports cards is what you would probably put as. And at some places to a fault too. You bring up how much PWCC has grown. Golden's marketplace is now a thing. all this different stuff. But remember, there's been places that have failed along the way. One of the biggest being StarStock not being a thing anymore, really. But like there's, there were places that tried it and didn't make it because you just can't have that many platforms and succeed. There's a lot of sports card collectors, but not enough to support 50 different platforms.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Especially because people can't spend time looking at all 50 different platforms. That's the biggest problem.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's true too. And I mean, I think it's good and bad. Like, I think the good thing is that, like, if you really are trying hard, you can find some good, probably arbitrage between the platforms. But at the same time, like you said, like, if you're trying to sell your card for top dollar, it might be a little bit harder now because there are so many platforms. There's just the amount of eyeballs within cards and that are people that are looking to buy cards is a lot more spread out. Like, it used to really be like eBay and card shows. And I mean, even if, and eBay was like the place where it was, I mean, I'm imagining probably similar for you, like where I was getting a lot of my data and information for creating content. And, like I said, when I saw you guys kind of coming into the conversation, not really conversation, but when I found a guy's account originally, like, yeah, like you said, the charts were really just not something I had seen. And at that point, I hadn't really been in it for that long, but the content, just the amount of people who have started creating content over the past few years has changed the space immensely. And I think, in a positive way, because now there's just more information. I think people are entertaining, so when it comes to content for you guys, like, how would you say it's evolved? Like, from, you posted that first chart. Now you guys are on Whatnot. You guys are doing podcasts. You guys are posting 1 billion times a day on Instagram, which is phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if you've seen on my stream, I usually go to your page and I just like look at some of your posts to find topics sometimes. So like I said, so for you, how is your content kind of evolved from that first chart, I guess? And that's maybe broad, but either way, like how has it evolved in a way?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it to start was charts. It was like, because that honestly was enough to drive the conversation back then. It was like this. It was so different that people were not familiar, that it was getting people constantly talk about it. Kind of changed more so into discussion pieces around different sets, different cards, trying to basically bring up any different topics that people want to talk about, honestly. And now a lot of it revolves around, yes, still the charts are still there, because of card letter helping us get those and everything like that. But a lot of it does come down to, like, what is the quickest news that people need to know? Like last night with the whole Fanatics and Topps thing, actually, kudos to you. You're the first person I saw it from, which is why I credited to you. I saw it in our message and everything like that, about Shams' tweet. And I was like, I kid you not, I drove somewhere to vote at like 7:30 at night. I was like the last person to vote probably. And I get the message from you. And then I open up my computer in the parking lot and I put my hotspot on and I get the post out. Cause I'm like, that's how fast it needs to be, honestly, to capture
definitely
the people. Otherwise, like, there are a lot of people that I think that kind of post things and it'll be 6 hours later, 10 hours later, 15 hours later. Like, obviously, like I'll try to be within an hour or two, or even the first one in some instances. But once you're like 6 to 24 hours out, I mean, it's like you're just one of many, at that point. So,
right, exactly.
So the speed is really important because, like, and especially with how the apps work these days, where it's like, if you don't get people like and comment on a thing within the first like 30 minutes, like, that post is gonna die. Like, no, they're not gonna send it out to more people because they don't think that other people want to see it. So it is such a bigger speed game now, I'd say, versus like in the past. I think they evolved a lot from like, okay, here's charts of baseball players, and it's like, here's these kind of longer write-ups with more education in it type of thing. And now a lot of it is a lot about speed. I think that's how it goes really with all social media now. A lot of it is, well, how fast can someone see something? How fast can they read it? How fast can they watch it? Which is why sometimes the long form stuff is really hard to get into people's hands. However, sometimes you get some really, really good interaction on, which is why, like, they invite me. Like, we still do long form all the time. But it is much more difficult to get eyeballs on it than the quicker stuff. So that, I'd say that's a big way, is like, we did try to focus on speed a lot in the last year and a half since that kind of transition I talked about, for sure, versus the bigger, we used to do, I used to write articles where it was like, I look at all these different numbers and talk about all these different multipliers. Yeah. That stuff is just very hard to get through to people. So I spend more of my time now in the speed game, for sure.
Right. Yeah. The nuance, I think, is definitely can sometimes be lost in a lot of sport, just even content in general. Like, I feel like, I also just shout out to me being like addicted to Twitter basically. And that's how I sent that post over. Cause I think I refreshed like every 2 seconds and it had been like posted 12 minutes ago. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then, like you said, the speed element. And I think, it can definitely be tricky at times when it comes to trying to create the best content, but also trying to be like correct, I guess, in a way. Like there's been tons of times where I've taken a post down because the thing that I said in the video or the post was just like not correct. So like, for you guys, when it comes to accuracy, like how, like, is that, obviously it is important for everybody, but how is that something that you guys focus on? Like how, how do you take that into account? Cause like, I think, when it comes to, post, I feel like our sports card industry is so different at times where people saying things can affect a card, or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Who really knows, to be honest? But it's like, for you guys, like, is that something that you focus on when you're creating content?
Yeah, accuracy is extremely important. Like I say speed, and like sometimes I think when speed is heard, it means it's not accurate, it's not correct,
Right.
or you don't take the time to think about it, which is not true. It is extremely important. Like for us, especially like at least the regard that we hold ourselves in, I think others do too. And as you can see, like Fanatics with the card, I think they hold us in the same regard. It's like we have to be correct with what we're saying. Like there are times where there are mistakes made. Post about this card, said card got relisted and I missed it. Right, I missed that it wasn't paid for, something like that. It was canceled, and those are kind of the ones that can catch me the most. And I'm like, shoot, I should have taken the extra step to make sure is paid for this or that. And I think that is definitely like where I'd say I've made the most mistakes, which I'm trying to get better. Like I always think of it now. I always try to think about it. And there actually is a way to take another step on eBay, even to go and look at their Terapeak data, because that stuff that posts there is paid for. So I've been doing that a lot to make sure that I'm not falling into that. Now, like with the thing with Fanatics that you posted, that you messaged me about yesterday, the basketball cards, like that was a time where I needed to get that post up fast because I knew that type of post would get sent around a ton, would get liked a ton, would comment on a ton. But I was very concerned at first when I was posting that I didn't know enough information about it, because that tweet was very vague. Okay, so it says Topps is bringing back basketball cards. Well, first of all, they've already been making basketball sets. Overtime Elite, as you know, McDonald's All-American, whatever else. They've already made Topps Finest, that retro and retired player set. They've already done that. However, the fact is that like 2023, 2024 NBA season, that clearly points to this is going to be active players. Now, the thing is, it's like, I think those are not going to be licensed. I'm sure you know that too. The Panini license runs until like 2026 exclusively. So like that's a point to where it's like at the time I didn't feel comfortable enough like saying different. So I literally just asked people like, hey, what do you think about this? Like more so than like trying to tell people like these aren't licensed or they'll be this, they'll be that. Cause like while those are, that's probably facts. Like I'm assuming those are facts. I'm not going to put it out there quickly and claim it to be fact. So I'll update, later as we find out more info, but it's a lot about as like we are a sports card marketer point account. Like this is not just Aaron Nowak like posting and stuff where it's like these are my opinions. It's like a lot of this stuff is fact, or it all should be factual, right? That's what we're striving for, to where it's a lot different ball game than like so and so's random collector account. Well, I'm not putting those people down at all, but you can just give more opinions is what it comes down to.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way. And I mean, you definitely learn throughout the process. I think one thing that you said there that was good was like the speed aspect, I think, of the posting and learning. It comes in time. Like I think, for you guys and other content creators, like the more that you're posting, the easier it becomes, I think, in a way. Like I definitely feel myself like when I sort of, for me at least, I'm sort of trying to build this business a little bit in more of an efficient way, I guess. And sometimes there'll be a couple days where I won't go through and I won't be like looking for topics for stuff. And it just seems like it's like harder, but like, for like example, like the WWE and UFC, like they just merged, like the company that bought UFC just bought WWE. And it's like, I feel like if I hadn't been sort of in the mode of looking for content, like I may not have even thought to connect the two, like cards and sports. Yeah. Like it just isn't something that I, am looking for. So like when it comes to the content you guys are producing and information that you're finding, like what's your like biggest resource that you're looking for? Like, or what's the biggest resource you use when you're like looking for information to make content on?
That's a good point. That's a good question, because, a lot of this stuff is coming off of sports, first of all. Okay, it's like what happens in sports, and then it's like how does the sales history, how is it affected on card ladder, and kind of merging those two worlds. Like that's a large portion of it. That when it comes to like the news and stuff like that, especially like card specific, like in some instances, you know, you think about like Shams and Woj and Adam Schefter, and they've got these sources. Like sometimes there is things where it's like I get told something and I will report it, and you know, sort it's from my sources, right? Like that's not like a large majority of the stuff, but it is really like staying in tune just to everyone else and what they talk about too. Because someone might see something before me, which has happened all the time. Like someone like posted about the MLB debut patches that Fanatics announced, right? Like I think it's Darren Rovell. I saw it maybe from our MLB pipeline. Then I got sent to me from like tweet about it. Well, it's like almost taking that story. That's like, well, how do I reposition it different than other people have? So then I mocked up the Yordan Alvarez card with the MLB debut patch inside the Dynasty card, and that did super well. Like that was an insane post. We had like thousands of likes, tons of reach, but like it really is like trying to be as close to the ground as possible and getting in these like, you know, these kind of news stories early. I credit as much as humanly possible too.
Definitely.
I can't stand people that don't credit or like even you. Like I don't know how many people really do credit people for just like people that share stuff with them, but like I'm giving credit to you for you sharing that with me. And I found out about through you. Like I do have more people than just you who I know. I really do try to share like that type of stuff as much as possible because I know how much work it is to work in media and to work in content. So just like, you know, rip something off and not give credit is really unfortunate to me when other people do it. But that's a huge thing to me is to really just stay in tune to all these different things and try to pick up on pieces along the way and then figure out how to transpose the story as well. Versus maybe like sometimes an announcement's good enough if you're early, but other times it's not. Like you have to think about how to make it different, which is what I did with the Yordan thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, thank you. Thank you for tagging me in that post as well. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's just, I mean, for me to sort of answer the question similarly is like, I just use Twitter like maybe I use it a little bit too much, but like Twitter is kind of the one place where I just am curating all the news. Like I have like a list of accounts that I know that post like good sports card stuff. And then other accounts that kind of post like news. So it's like, I think you can like pin lists on your like homepage. So like I have like a news, which is just sports cards. And then I have like, I follow Call of Duty pretty closely. So I have like a Call of Duty one. And then I have like they have the new For You page, which I think people don't like, but I think is actually fine. Like, I don't know why people are complaining.
It's exactly what it was. They just segmented it out now for you easily. It's literally exactly what Twitter was for the last like year.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think people are complaining about it just to complain, but that's not really, we're not talking about the Twitter For You page right now. But so let's jump back to, I think one of the coolest topics that has really come out of sports cards in the past year is there was a group of people who were included in this year's Topps Big League. You obviously being one of them. I mean, that's like, and you get the card in hand now. And so like how did that happen? You don't have to share sort of the granular details, but like, how'd that happen? Like, I mean, that's, like I said, super cool.
I mean, from like the physical optics of it, I literally got reached out to one day by one of the top people at Fanatics. First of all, I had no idea who it was beforehand. Super nice guy. Love the guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll send an email. He's like, I want to chat to you about something. And next thing you know, I get on a meeting a couple of days later and just talking about different topics of the sports card hobby, the sports card space. And then it was like, do you want to be in a baseball card set? I was like, come again? He's like, yeah, you want to have your own card? I was like, yeah, of course, Yeah. So like, it was really cool. It was an awesome moment. And just to have it now in hand is really cool as well. Like, to be honest, I had no idea what it looked like until the day the box is released. I never got a proof. Okay, now I did take the picture, right? We took the picture.
Right.
So at least knew what the picture was going to look like. I didn't know what the card was going to look like. And then the samples got to me the day of the release, and I was very thankful for that I got them in hand before I saw one listed on eBay or something like that. I was like, I saw this card in hand before I see it on my phone. And yeah, super cool moment. And I think 3 have sold now, 100, 100, and 125. I think were the last 3 sales, and there's one up at auction. The only one listed is actually an auction right now, ending in like 3 days. I think it's like 35 right now, so we'll see where it goes. But yeah, it's really cool, and it's really cool to see other people that got them. 5 people selected for this first set. I hope that they do it for more people going forward, because I know for myself, like, when you're a kid, you always want a baseball card, football card, if because you play sports, and now it's like, oh man, just because I collect cards, I get one. Like it's
right,
so,
right, exactly.
so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think something that I thought was, I guess kind of interesting that sort of, I think is why the set sort of caught fire a little bit on social media is like they called it, I think it was like the hobby influencers, I believe is what the name of the set on the checklist was. So, I mean, from your perspective, like, do you find it weird, I guess, to be called like an influencer? Like, I feel like it's such a, I feel like at this point, if you're on social media, everybody's just like an influencer in some way or another. But it feels like within sports cards, I don't know, the term is maybe not as positive as maybe it is in other industries. But like, how do
It's
you
not
kind of
because the reason why the term's not positive in the sports card industry, I think, compared to other industries, is because there's so much money spent in the industry.
Right.
There's so much money spent that if people are listening to other people and spending their money because of that, it can be very detrimental very fast. So that's why the term has got a bad kind of connotation in sports cards. As for the term itself, I'm just going to be completely honest. I do not like it. I've been called it at different events where I'm speaking on stage, and when I was in Toronto, I even said, "Hey, I'm not an influencer, I'm a collector." Right? Like I don't think I am an influencer. And yes, there can be people who can be seen as them. I'll let them speak for themselves. But I think that I'm literally just a collector that creates content, and I'd call myself a content creator. Is what I call myself. If I had to classify myself as anything, a card collector that creates content. And of course, I name the set, and like,
right.
I'm not even gonna put down the name of the set because I understand like that is kind of it's a term, right? It's a buzzword. It's how people are called who connect with others, and I just think that, like, you're right, it's different in sports cards versus in other industries. So it is what it is, right? But like for me, like, I just don't consider myself an influencer. But it I get it. I get why they named it that, and I'm not gonna put it down either. But I would call it content creators.
So did you get to keep the Topps jersey that they sent you, or did you have to send that back?
Check it out.
You have it like hung up, or is it something that you're gonna like wear all the time or something like that?
It's actually in the closet in the other room right now.
Nice.
It is on a hanger, and it says my name on the back, and it says 23.
Oh, so wow, that's cool.
It's a customized jersey. It's not just a generic Topps jersey, but it's pretty
nice.
cool.
That's
it's
awesome.
Pretty cool. So I think I'll have it in my rotation for shows now going forward. I feel like I kind of got to wear it out there, and people might find it kind of cool because it's on the card.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's really, so it has like your name. Like, did you pick a number? Like, did you get a number?
I think 23 is probably for the year, but funny enough, 23 is my favorite number. So
yeah. Oh, perfect. That ended up working out. Yeah, for sure. And so, in the industry, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but like, things are changing so quickly. Like, I mean, last night Shams comes out and tweets that Topps is going to be coming out with NBA cards, and the next year, which is like not even that long. Like when they announced that Fanatics was buying the sports card licenses for basketball and football for like 2025, everyone was freaking out. Now it's like next year they're going to be coming out with cards. So like, from your perspective, what's something that you're looking forward to over the next few years when it comes to sports cards in the industry, and maybe even something like what Fanatics, I guess, maybe has planned?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the most exciting things that can happen in the next 5 years, like, of course, there can be tech upgrades everywhere. Like, we already talked about how much tech has advanced in the last 2 years, so that will happen. Tech will do its thing. I think for me, I'm most excited about innovations in licensing. We've already seen many ways in the last like 6 months to a year that licensing has taken a step up in different regards. Now, tennis will have cards for Topps, specifically Topps Chrome tennis cards. Like, I'm very excited to see what the next 5 years brings in terms of licensing, especially as a major soccer fan. I'm sure that you're probably excited about that too. Like, I just feel there's a lot of more ground that they can cover with that specifically, and I'm excited to see what happens there. The other thing too, it's like the whole MLB debut patch thing that they're doing now. I sure hope that we see that carried out in many different regards. And I'm not just saying the debut patches. I'm not saying, once they get the NFL license, like, let's slap an NFL debut patch on when the players make it. I'm talking anything that has to do with game worn material and making its way into cards, specifically for cards. It's been a big problem with Panini, as everyone knows, for the last like 5 years now. Like, they used to do more game worn, now they do like basically nothing. And there's a lot that can be done in that regard, and a lot of really cool things. I don't know what they all are, of course, but like, I'm excited to see what is done, because I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. And there's gonna be many, many, many things. Like, I'd love to see something where like, with specifically with soccer cards too, like imagine like a full club badge inside of a patch or something like that. Like if they can get to those things quicker and easier because of all these partnerships that they had, they just bought the major Italian retailer now in Italy.
Right.
That also works with like AC Milan and Inter Milan, and then they also work with Chelsea right now directly, and PSG and Man U. Like, man, what's the saying? This dynasty said I can't freaking buy a full club logo patch auto like right in the middle of the card.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
God dang, I'd freak out. Like we've never seen something like that. Like we've seen Panini do different things with patches, but never is it executed actually really well. A lot of the times when you see sick Chelsea patches with Panini cards, they're in freaking national team cards. Like I don't want that.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of ground that can be made up there, and I think Fanatics will be rather swift to cover all of that over the next 2 years with all their different licenses, which would be really cool.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if you had a chance to check out the interview I did with Lou, one of our other good friends, but I have a new segment that I've been trying to roll out here. I don't know if you saw it. Hey, Aaron, it's Michael. It's me, Michael Rubin from the CEO of Fanatics. I really like your podcast. Congratulations on being in the big league set. That's a really great accomplishment. I'm looking for some business ideas, and I'm just wondering what can you bring to the table? This idea, unfortunately, I can't pay you for. Maybe in the future we will pay you for some ideas, but like I'm looking for a business idea. Like, let me know something that you got for something that we can do at Fanatics.
I love that. That's hilarious. Honestly, I've said for years, like I know that the whole Disney licensing and Pixar licensing is like, some people get, some people don't. I don't know how it works. Gosh, I would just kill for a Topps Chrome Pixar set. I need a Buzz Lightyear Gold Refractor number .50 so badly in my PC, and it's never been made. But make it happen. If Kakao can make Disney cards, I know if Fanatics can get their hands on a Disney or Pixar license at some point.
I think that's a phenomenal idea. Let me talk to Mickey and see what we can do if we can, or Bob Iger, I'll talk to him as well, see if we can get those licenses. Yep. Thanks, Michael. Thank you for that. I appreciate you coming on the show. Two episodes in a row. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that.
That's stunning, man. That's stunning. I can't believe you have that pull at him.
Yeah, it is. He is very busy, but he is nice enough to come on the show occasionally.
He makes those 1 minute. He makes those 1 minute windows open for you all the time.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, I even think like you said with the Disney license, I think it would be. I mean, I think like I think that would be really cool. I think we saw like you were one of. I definitely saw you posting about those Pixar cards, the Japanese Pixar cards. I think those are, phenomenal. I mean, it's weird. I like Disney. I don't know if they are, I'm not sure 100% why, but like over the past few years, they have kind of licensed out the images, like, and especially this last Disney set. Yeah, exactly. The Pixar, it's a company that kind of we grew up with in a way, like it sort of was invented when we were like younger. So it's like, it's like, it's people like growing up with like Johnny Carson and like all the, late night hosts and stuff like that. It's like Pixar was something that we grew up with. So like, I would definitely love to see, Disney cards, or like Disney licensed cards for Topps or Fanatics or whatever, whatever they're looking to do. I think that would be definitely a really cool set.
100%.
Yeah, I got a couple other questions for you. So, we'll go back to card specific questions. Do you remember the first moment or first card that you got that kind of sparked your desire to get into collecting?
100%. I mean, I've had cards before this. I bought some cards at a garage sale from Nate, who, I work with today. But the card that for sure like opened my eyes to just what this is. And I was really young. I mean, I'm in probably, I don't know, 6th grade at this point. This was 2008. I just moved to Minnesota, so I'm probably like 5th or 6th grade. I opened a pack of 2008 Topps football. I opened a lot of those blaster boxes back then. Brett Favre was on the cover. We just moved to Minnesota, my family, my brother and I, big Packers fans. Like we need, it just was eye-catching, I guess, and started opening up the cards and loved them, first of all, for like all the stats and stuff. But was putting together the set, and then one day, I'm going through all my cards, and it's like, hey, this one looks rather different, as a variation, the SSP variation, and there's not many out there today, and I don't have one. I really want to get one back one day, but not for the price I saw the only one on eBay at. It was a Matt Ryan no helmet variation. So in the 2008 Topps paper set, they did some pictures of the top rookies where they're standing inside of like either their college. No, it wasn't the college stadium. I think it was the Ricky Premier Stadium, which where they shoot all the images, and they're just standing there with no helmet on. And it was like at the time a Beckett book value $30 card. But remember, this is like 6th grade Arian, right? Like you don't make money,
Right.
you have no money, you have like a couple dollars here and there for your birthday. And looking at that card and being like, holy smokes, this thing's $30. That was like, it made me realize that there's money in this like very fast. And at
It's like
a
$1
young
million
age,
for like a kid like that age.
for sure. And it made me realize that like there's way more out there than just this random Matt Ryan card, right? So from there, it was like that sparked me to like really go at it. Whereas like I started Googling about like anything I could almost, and then pretty much stumbled upon my first sports card show, which was at Valley View Mall in Minnesota in Bloomington. And I took the card there. I'm pretty sure I traded it to someone who had a booth there for like, $30 worth of other cards. Aaron Rodgers rookie, Kevin Durant rookies, Kobe rookies, like the tops ones, like, the 96 tops Kobe rookie, like those things. I basically traded for a slew of superstar rookie cards. And I still have those actually. Still got the Rodgers, still got the Kobe, the KDs and stuff like that. But that is where I was like, yeah, you can take this card, you can trade it, you can buy it, you can sell it. The first card show was for sure like the experience that for sure hooked me. Like and that wasn't just hooked on opening packs. I was like hooked on like being involved in doing it all.
Definitely. And so do you have any cards that you previously had in your collection that you regret selling?
Yeah, there's like not too many cards where I'm like, dang, I really wish I had that like right now. I oftentimes like I have a lot of cards I've had for either my whole collecting life, like the Kobe rookies and stuff, or cards that I acquired like years and years ago when the Brewers were really good. It reminds me of the time when the Brewers were almost in the World Series. And those, like I've sold a few here and there, but not many at all, keeping those. But the card where I'm like, dude, I just wish I didn't sell this because I don't think I'll ever be able to buy it again. I don't think I might even ever see this specific parallel again, other than maybe one off somewhere. The second soccer card I ever bought, this is right after the National in 2019, the first time I meet you, of course. And I bought a Kylian Mbappe. Like I went in big because I was young and was like, hey, let's do this thing. Right? So I bought a Kylian Mbappe 2000.
Well, also the Kylian Mbappes back then were like $5. So like
they were
going all in was like you could spend like $100 and get like 10 or 15 of his cards, which was insane nowadays.
Exactly. The base were like $2 from Prism, but I bought a Pulisic auto from 2017 Select on card first, not the rookie, but it's on card and USA guy, of course. And the second one I bought was the Mbappe, but it's 2018 National Treasures, which is from the same year as the Prism, right? World Cup thing. It's not like it's 2017 rookies and stuff, but the first NT card from for sure. 2018 National Treasures, gold out of 10. I've never seen a more beautiful card, I think, in my life. Honestly, it was spectacular. I freaking love the card. Now I 50 sold the other day for I think like $3 or $4 grand.
Ooh, wow.
I bought it for $500 in 2019 as a gold out of 10. Now I sold it for like over 10x, $500.
Right.
Which is why I'm not like, oh my gosh, I'm kicking myself. It's for sure worth more than I sold it for, I think. And I even sold it, it was like right before kind of like the massive boom. It was still around that time, but before the massive soccer boom for sure. But that card, I just think about it a lot, meaning like it was a beautiful card. I'm obsessed with gold numbered out of 10. Not even from Prism because they're way too expensive, but from other sets where they look really cool. And that card just, oh man, I wish I could have that one. And there's not many cards I say that about, but that one I do.
So I don't remember if it was the 2019 National, the 2021. You bought like it was in Argentina. Was it I forget which exact card it was. It was a black card with like a silver auto that was like, was it Luis Suarez or was it Messi?
It was Uruguay and it was Luis Suarez. Yeah. And that was at the 2019 National. That was actually, I take this all back. The Mbappe was the third soccer card I bought. I actually traded for the Suarez, but that was my first ever soccer card. I still have that to this day, actually. It's pretty close to me, but it's got half the La Liga logo patch, match used, gold ink auto. I get people asking about all the time at card shows. I always put in the case overpriced because there's offers I won't turn down, but I still have not sold it to this day. It's my first soccer card ever. So that was actually what kind of kickstarted all, especially talking with Tyler from 137. He was the soccer guy I kind of first met. And looked into it and really fell in love fast. Massive Chelsea fan, watch all the matches now and everything. So it's a great time, but I do still have that card.
Yeah, I remember getting back from that 2019 National after we did probably have the same conversation with Tyler where I was asking about like Mbappe, and then I came back to like my like somebody who I worked with was into soccer, and I was asking him about soccer, and that was like this summer that Pulisic went to Chelsea. And Chelsea was the team that I follow as well. And so like that was, I mean, I didn't know anything about Pulisic. The guy that I worked with was like, yeah, Pulisic, he's going to Chelsea. I'm like, okay, well, I guess, that's good. I can now follow him again. I was kind of, getting back into soccer.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, now Pulisic, obviously, superstar, phenomenal facial hair, just I guess I don't know. I think he's crushing it. You could say he's crushing it. Maybe he isn't. Just if you were to ask a soccer fan, like maybe he's not. I always think it's always fun watching him on whether he's playing for Chelsea or whether he's playing for
too many injuries recently, but he's definitely got talent. I think he just needs to find the situation where he is the star versus kind of being one of many guys who play when they're not injured.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So I got two more questions for you.
Yep.
So what would you say is like, what card in your collection would you say means the most to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, right? Like there's a lot of Brewers cards. That the Rainbow of Yelich from the Heritage High Number set is probably one of my favorite collectible pieces, maybe my very favorite collectible piece, but it's like 16 cards big. The Kobe rookie means a lot as one of my very first cards, and I traded my Matt Ryan for it. If I remember correctly, I traded for it. Otherwise, I bought it at the exact same show. I came away with that card, I know that much. But I mean, if I have to put one card like up for it, I actually brought it out here for this is Hank Aaron rookie PSA 3. I'm actually going to cross-grade this to SGC, I believe, in the next week or so. This one I plan on holding for the rest of my life, and I am obsessed with the tuxedo slabs of the vintage cards for sure. But the very first card show I went to, I saw Hank Aaron rookie card. Okay, I'm sure like 3s or 4s or 5s were like $200 at the time. But being 6th, 7th grade, I couldn't buy it in 6th, 7th grade, especially when just starting my collection. So it was kind of my goal since I started collecting when I was that young, was to one day get a Hank Aaron rookie. And I did get this as well. Funny enough, so many stories are from the 2019 National. I did finally get this at the 2019 National. Had more money, bought and sold more cards that helped get there. And I got this for $1,200 from a super nice guy there. Now they're like 4 or 5K depending on how nice the copy is, or 3, 4, 5K depending on how nice the copy is. But I think like unless something absolutely dire happens to me where like you need to like save your leg or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't see a reason why that card will ever be sold in my life.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love hearing stories about like any card. I mean, anytime you can hear people talk about, what they've done to get their dream card and stuff along those lines. So the last question is something that I try and ask everybody that comes on is what has sports cards taught you?
It's a great question. It's taught me a million things. I mean, honestly, I've learned a lot by my business skills, my communication skills, my personal skills, whatever it might be. Honestly, I've pretty much learned everything from sports cards or doing things that have helped me be good at sports cards. It all kind of revolves around there. I don't think I could put my finger on one thing where I'm like, this is the most important lesson. I just think it's so important to do something you love and to not only do that, but to use it to help benefit others too. Which is really the massive driving force. I mean, no doubt there's stressful days. There's days where I'm like, I don't want to do this or that. I want to do a lot of things. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But there is, sometimes always those things no matter what you're doing, but like it always comes back to like, hey, are other people in a better spot because I'm doing this? And 99.99% of the time, or even 100% of the time, it's yes in my mind, which will make me keep doing this hopefully forever.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I mean, I think, it's the content and the business aspect's fun for us. And I mean, I think that's sort of what I've tried to do, I guess, is when I learn something is like share the knowledge. I think, if I can share the knowledge, and even if, one person or two people learn something from something that I'm saying, that, that I guess that helps them. And that's obviously, I think that's a net positive when it comes to the content. I mean, even,
Definitely.
Whatever, we all go through times where content isn't doing as well, but even if one person, I guess, saw a post and thought it was useful, like I think it's a net positive in terms of like everything that's going on in the world. So yeah, like I said, I want to thank you a ton for coming on. I mean, we've known each other. We've done these all a bunch of times. So it's always a blast having you on the show.
Sure.
Let the audience know sort of where they can find you, all the channels, all that kind of stuff.
Definitely. At SlabStox on Instagram is going to be your main place to learn quick news. Daily Slab newsletter you can sign up for at slabstox.com. That's going to have multiple content pieces per newsletter every single morning at 7 a.m. Eastern time. And then you can find us on SlabStox on the YouTube channel and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Once you do all that, you pretty much know where we are.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Like I said, Aaron, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Adam. I really, really appreciate it, man.
Have a good night.
You too.